Here's something curious you probably never noticed. Every once in a while, a man walks into a room and does absolutely nothing, yet somehow still shifts the entire atmosphere. No theatrics, no forced charm, no hunger for attention. And if you've ever watched Keanu Reeves in an interview, that quiet presence, that grounded energy, that calm intensity, then you already know exactly the type of man I'm talking about. There's a certain kind of man who moves through the world with a silent, almost effortless authority. He isn't hunting for validation. He isn't begging for eyes. And he isn't bending himself to prove a single thing. Yet somehow, without trying, people notice him, especially women. Not because he's loud. Not because he tries to dominate a space. But because his presence carries something different. Steady, self-contained, inwardly powerful in a way that feels rare in today's world. This is the Sigma male. He doesn't climb his way to the top by battling others for the spotlight. He doesn't fall to the bottom by chasing approval. He steps outside the hierarchy entirely, walking his own road, guided by internal alignment rather than competition. And that's exactly where the quiet fascination begins. Most women don't even realize what's happening. It's not some dramatic movie-style obsession. It's subtle, organic. It forms slowly, simply by watching the way he exists. They notice the relaxed way he moves. Not tense, not posturing. Like someone who has made peace with himself and doesn't fear anything. They notice how he listens, not to interrupt, not to outshine, but to genuinely understand. They notice how he speaks, only when it adds depth, clarity, or meaning. And they even notice the way he disappears, not seeking attention, not creating suspense, but with a calm detachment that signals self-mastery, not avoidance. In a world where so many men chase applause, a Sigma becomes a psychological anomaly. He doesn't seek attention, yet it gravitates toward him. He doesn't chase admiration, yet people admire him anyway. He doesn't reveal much, which only deepens the mystery surrounding him. Women are drawn to these contradictions. Independence fused with empathy, detachment blended with emotional presence, confidence wrapped in humility. They're pulled toward a man who follows his own internal compass, untouched by trends, untouched by pressure, untouched by external expectations. And today we're diving deep into the psychology behind it. Why women become quietly, instinctively, and almost unintentionally obsessed with Sigma males, even when they don't fully understand why. Number 1. His silence creates genuine presence. A Sigma male's silence is not emptiness. It's deliberate and grounded. In a world drowning in noise and constant stimulation, his calmness stands out like a lighthouse. Women often describe feeling an unusual sense of calm around a man who isn't rushed, reactive, or scrambling to fill every moment with words. This effect isn't random, it's psychological. Researchers have shown that human nervous systems synchronize. When someone carries a relaxed, steady emotional state, the person with them subconsciously mirrors that calmness. This is why a Sigma's quiet feels soothing rather than awkward. He isn't withholding attention. He's creating space. Space for real connection, real expression, real authenticity. His silence isn't passive. It's intentional. It slows the moment down. It allows her to breathe. It makes room for honesty instead of performance. Women instinctively interpret this as emotional safety, something far more valuable than charm or charisma. And in that calm space, conversations unfold more naturally. She feels heard even when he says very little. His lack of performative energy signals security and removes pressure from the interaction. No competition, no need to impress, no fight for attention. Communication research consistently shows that people are more attracted to those who make them feel understood rather than entertained, and the Sigma male's presence does exactly that. His silence draws her out. It encourages her to speak more freely. It makes her reveal things she rarely shares. And because he listens with concentration, not distraction, his attention becomes amplified. In a fractured world full of screens, his focus becomes a rare form of intimacy. This quiet attentiveness communicates maturity, emotional discipline, and self-control, traits deeply associated with high-value masculinity. And beyond that, his silence also creates mystery. Not performative mystery, not forced aloofness, but the natural mystery of a man who knows himself deeply and doesn't spill every thought into the world. Women aren't overwhelmed by him, they're pulled in. His silence becomes a doorway. She can't see what's behind it, but she wants to. In the end, his silence isn't a lack of expression, it's a form of emotional intelligence. It builds connection instead of forcing it, creates calm instead of chaos. For women, that calm feels like home. Number 2, he displays independence without arrogance. Women are inherently drawn to men who can stand on their own, but not in a loud, look at me kind of way. The Sigma male embodies an independence that doesn't need decoration. He doesn't announce it. He doesn't romanticize it. He doesn't perform it. His independence simply is. Comes from clarity, competence, and confidence. Not rebellion, not ego, not bitterness. Human behavioral studies consistently link independence with competence and emotional stability. But what sets the Sigma apart is the absence of pride or superiority in his solitude. His autonomy comes from authenticity, not attitude. Psychologically, this aligns perfectly with self-determination theory, the idea that true confidence is built on internal motivation rather than external validation. Women subconsciously recognize this internal stability as a sign of a man who is centered, grounded, and self-possessed. He's not alone because he's running from people. He's not independent because he thinks he's better. He simply trusts his own inner world, and that creates a unique kind of emotional gravity. From an evolutionary perspective, humans are naturally drawn to partners who seem capable, composed, and resilient, but also emotionally safe to bond with. The Sigma male embodies both ends of that spectrum. His independence doesn't just make him look capable. It instantly communicates something deeper. He's solid. He's safe. He's a man whose confidence isn't built on ego or performance. A woman can sense he isn't threatened by her presence, her accomplishments, or her voice, because his identity isn't stitched together by outside approval. And when a man carries himself like that, psychologists call it relational stability, the rare ability to be with someone without clinging to them or pushing them away. This blend of self-reliance without arrogance reveals another powerful truth about him. His emotional intelligence sits quietly at the core of everything he does. He's aware enough to know what he can shoulder alone, humble enough to accept help when it truly matters, and wise enough to avoid showing off just to seem impressive. In a world where many men mistake distance for strength or confuse control with leadership, this calm, steady independence becomes something rare and almost magnetic. Women recognize this contrast instantly. There's an enormous difference between a man who stands alone because he chooses to, and a man who stands alone because he's afraid to be seen. A Sigma's solitude is anchored in purpose, not insecurity. He speaks less so he can listen more, reacts less so he can observe more, and influences people not through force but through presence. This kind of presence sends a subconscious message that he is emotionally grown, psychologically steady, and centered in a way most people never manage to achieve. These qualities put women at ease while simultaneously pulling them in. His ability to be whole on his own without flaunting it creates a natural attraction that requires zero performance. Number 3. His emotional control feels genuinely safe. He doesn't explode, unravel, or lash out when life becomes difficult. Instead, he stays collected. This calmness isn't just a personality quirk. It's a psychological and biological signal that has carried weight for thousands of years. Human beings are naturally drawn toward those who stay steady in chaos. In ancient environments, the man who could remain clear-headed during conflict, danger, or scarcity increased the odds of survival for everyone around him. Women, who historically had to choose partners who could navigate unpredictable threats, developed a subconscious sensitivity to this kind of calm. And even though the world has changed, that instinct hasn't gone anywhere. A composed man sends a timeless message. I'm capable. I'm dependable. I can take on life without falling apart. And what makes this steady presence even more compelling is that it isn't loud or exaggerated. It's not the fake toughness some men try to project by raising their voice or dominating a room. Real emotional discipline is quieter, almost serene. It shows itself in the way he pauses before speaking, the way he holds his body relaxed instead of restless, and the way he can listen without throwing up defenses. Modern psychology calls this high emotional regulation, a trait tied to stronger leadership, healthier relationships, and deeper fulfillment in life. Women notice this even when they can't explain it. They feel it in how grounded he is, how predictable his reactions are, and how peaceful the environment becomes when he's around. Attachment theory even suggests people naturally gravitate toward individuals who display secure emotional signals. A calm tone, steady posture, low impulsivity, and the ability to self-soothe. These subtle traits communicate maturity, reliability, and peace. They tell a woman that this man isn't going to erupt into chaos or become another unpredictable chapter in her life. But beyond the science, there's something deeply human about this steadiness. His calm invites others to relax. His presence shifts a room. People look to him during uncertainty because his quiet, unwavering energy makes everything feel more manageable. Women pick up on this faster than anyone else, because emotional steadiness is the soil where trust grows. It creates a feeling of emotional shelter, a kind of inner sanctuary in a world overflowing with noise, pressure, and overstimulation. A man who remains grounded isn't just attractive, he's rare. And in a world full of men who react without thinking or crumble under pressure, the one who stays calm stands out as exceptional, intriguing, and effortlessly magnetic. Number 4, his mystery awakens curiosity. A Sigma male doesn't reveal everything about himself, not because he's trying to play games, but because he has built a private inner world over years of introspection and self-growth. His mystery isn't a tactic. It's a natural consequence of a man who thinks before speaking, observes before acting, and trusts his own insight more than the noise around him. Psychologists call this high intrapersonal intelligence, a deep understanding of one's own thoughts, emotions, and motives. Men like this often grow up carving their own path, learning early to trust their own judgment rather than chasing the opinions of others. This creates an aura of quiet depth that people, especially women, sense instantly. While the modern world encourages constant oversharing and emotional broadcasting, a Sigma male filters everything through an inner discipline that's becoming extremely rare. And that subtle distance, that sense that there is more beneath the surface, activates one of the strongest psychological instincts humans have: curiosity. Women are especially drawn to this calm unpredictability because it stands in sharp contrast to the attention-hungry behavior they see everywhere. People posting every detail online, shouting their opinions, and begging for validation. A Sigma isn't seeking the spotlight, and that's exactly why people want to understand him more. He's one of the few men who feels completely at ease even when no one is paying attention to him. Solitude doesn't intimidate him. He actually values the silence, the reflection, the space where his inner world has room to breathe. And interestingly, social psychology has long shown that scarcity amplifies value. His quietness works in the exact same way. The less he reveals, the more people lean in. His distance never comes across as cold. It's intentional space where he protects his clarity, his respect for himself, and his emotional balance. Women pick up on this instantly, and it sparks a natural fascination. They find themselves wondering what runs through his mind. They notice the way he watches the world with quiet curiosity, how he chooses each word with intention, and how he never tries to perform or impress. That restraint, that calm, deliberate composure, makes him feel like the kind of man who cannot be rushed, swayed, or pressured into anything. Even in social environments full of noise, he stays grounded and self-contained, completely uninterested in the chaos other people create. This gives him what can only be described as emotional sovereignty, a sense that no one's moods, reactions, or expectations have the power to pull him out of alignment. In a world overflowing with impulsive behavior, the Sigma male's centeredness feels rare and deeply attractive. Women can feel that he isn't withholding just to appear mysterious, he's carrying depth. He communicates, without saying a word, that there's far more beneath the surface. Layers, stories, experiences, a personality that can't be understood in a single moment. That quiet complexity leaves an unforgettable impression. Number 5. He respects boundaries and expects others to do the same. Women are naturally drawn to men who carry themselves with calm, steady self-respect. The Sigma male embodies this more precisely than most people notice. Where some men rely on dominance, manipulation, or attention-seeking to prove their worth, the Sigma demonstrates his value through quiet consistency. His boundaries aren't loud speeches. They're lived standards. They're shaped by psychology, supported by behavioral science, and strengthened through experience. Research in social dynamics even shows that people naturally respect those who move through the world with stable self-worth, and Sigmas operate from exactly that place. When they confront disrespect, manipulation, or instability, they don't explode or argue. They don't chase explanations. They simply step back. Psychologists call this the power of behavioral withdrawal, a non-aggressive, non-dramatic choice to remove energy from a situation that no longer deserves it. This silent exit signals emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and a refusal to engage in chaos. And for many women, this contrast is magnetic. Where a lot of men tolerate poor treatment out of fear of losing a woman, fear of being alone, the Sigma views solitude as a strength, not a punishment. Multiple studies show that people who are comfortable with their own company are less likely to enter toxic relationships and more likely to be viewed as grounded and secure. This independence tells women something subtle but powerful. He is with them because he chooses to be, not because he needs someone to fill a void. That shift changes the entire dynamic of attraction. He doesn't chase validation. He offers presence. He doesn't demand commitment. He inspires it. And when he pulls away, it's never passive aggression. It's a principle rooted in emotional maturity. His behavior says, if the energy isn't respectful, I won't participate. There's a deeper psychological layer here too. Women often interpret a Sigma's calm detachment as evidence of emotional stability. A man who cannot be easily provoked, manipulated, or thrown off balance. Evolutionary psychology has long associated this kind of stability with leadership, strength, and long-term reliability. Yet, the Sigma doesn't lead by force or dominance. He leads by being in control of himself. That's why his boundaries feel different. No shouting, no ultimatums, no drama. Just a firm and silent refusal to tolerate disrespect. And ironically, that quiet discipline increases the respect women feel toward him. Human nature is simple. We elevate what elevates itself. We protect what clearly values itself. Number 6. He lives by inner principles, not social pressure. His values guide him. Not trends, not public opinion, not the desire to be liked. And that alone separates him from the majority of modern men. In a world where people unconsciously twist themselves to fit whatever is currently admired, a man who is anchored to his own beliefs becomes something rare, almost revolutionary. Research in evolutionary psychology shows that women are naturally drawn to men who display internal autonomy and stability. These qualities signal emotional safety, long-term decision-making, and the ability to steer one's own life without outside influence. When a man's identity is rooted in his convictions rather than the noise of the world, he carries a calm, unshakable certainty that no one can imitate. This grounded presence broadcasts something subtle but unmistakable. He cannot be pushed, manipulated, or bent out of shape. Women feel this instantly, in his tone, in the way he stands, in the boundaries he sets, even in the silence he chooses. A man who belongs to himself radiates a magnetism stronger than charm or smooth words. Not because he's trying to impress anyone, but because authenticity shines louder than performance. Psychologists call this a coherent identity, an internal alignment that makes a man predictable in his character, yet unpredictable in how far he can go. People trust men who are anchored, and women, especially, associate this kind of grounded integrity with emotional safety, stability, and deep compatibility. The Sigma never tries to chase relevance. He embodies his values so fully that relevance ends up chasing him. He doesn't fight for attention. Attention finds him on its own. His grounded nature becomes its own quiet charisma, steady, self-contained, and impossibly real. Women aren't drawn to him because they think they can control him. They're drawn to the rare comfort of knowing no one can. If this breakdown resonated with you, tell me in the comments. What's the one trait you think creates the strongest form of quiet charisma in a man? And if you want more deep, psychology-backed insights on identity, attraction, and power, hit subscribe and join the Epic Persona community. Your growth starts here. Your transformation continues in the next video waiting on your screen.